Science meets spirituality. When we talk about science, what exactly do we mean? Science might be our most accurate estimation, but what if we're still missing the mark entirely? Science gives us the nearest glimpse, but what if we are still galaxies away from understanding the full truth? We often speak about science as objective or absolute, yet the scientific facts are often temporary. I mean, a long time ago, 100 years ago, people were living by a completely different set of beliefs to the ones that we are living now. Things are always changing. Things are either always being proven wrong or proven right. And there are so many scientists out there. What people don't realize is that one scientist completely contradicts another scientist. So who do we trust? Who do we believe in? Is there just one scientist that we have to follow, or do we have to look at everybody? Science is perhaps our most accurate estimation of reality, a framework built on observation, experimentation, and evolving understanding. But what if it's still just a guess? The closest guess we have, and yet still so far away from the full truth. Over the centuries, scientific facts have constantly shifted. What was once believed to be absolute, like the idea that the Earth was the center of the universe or that time is constant, has been proven false throughout the years. New theories emerge, old ones collapse, and the cycle continues. This doesn't make science unreliable, it just makes it human. Because, it is a human construct, but maybe science is just a reflection of our current level of awareness. What will be believed in 100 years' time is going to be completely different to what we believe in now, and which one is the truth? The truth is subjective anyway. The truth always keeps changing. One person will be living out their truth, and another person will be living out a completely different truth, but it still works for both parties. And what if awareness itself is the missing variable? The bridge between science and spirituality is thinner than we think. Science studies the external, spirituality studies the internal. But what if these two aren't separate realms at all, but rather two languages describing the same reality from different vantage points? One of the most mind-bending discoveries in modern physics is the double-slit experiment. In this experiment, scientists fired particles like electrons or photons, which are tiny bits of matter or light, towards a barrier with two slits. Behind the barrier was a screen that would show where the particles landed. Now, logically, you would expect the particles to go through one slit or the other and form two clusters behind the slits, like you'd see if you threw tiny balls through two openings. But that is not what happened. When unobserved, the particles didn't form two clusters. Instead, they created an interference pattern, like waves interfering with each other, implying that each individual particle somehow went through both slits at the same time, like a wave, not a solid object. This is already bizarre enough. How can someone be in two places at once? But it gets even stranger from there. When scientists placed a measuring device at the slits to observe which one of the particles went through, the wave-like interference pattern vanished completely. Instead, the particles behaved like solid matter again, forming two neat clusters. Just by observing this experiment, the results changed majorly. The particles chose one slit, not both. In other words, the act of observation collapsed the wave of potential into a single physical result. And this finding in itself shattered notions of objective reality. It suggested that until something is observed, it exists in a state of probability, not certainty. This also means that when a test is being done, for example, a scientific test by a scientist, if they think something is going to happen, chances are it likely will happen. And if they think something isn't supposed to happen, chances are it might not happen. And this changes the results completely. I mean, if a lot of people did the exact same experiment, they would get completely different results based on what they think is going to happen. And the double-slit experiment raised a deeper question. What role does consciousness play in the formation of reality? Because it wasn't just measurement tools that caused the shift. It was awareness. The presence of an observer altered the outcome of the experiment. And from a spiritual lens, this is profound. It echoes ancient teachings that say our attention, intention, and inner state shape the external world. That reality is not fixed and separate from us. It's fluent, entangled with our perception and our awareness. And we are not just passive experiencers. We are active co-creators. The double-slit experiment in itself shows us that we are much more powerful than we think. I mean, when the scientists weren't in the room to see the double-slit experiment happening, when their minds weren't thinking, this is exactly what should happen, this is what I'm expecting to happen, the particles were just acting in the most random ways because there was no one there to tell them how they should act. I mean, everything that happens around us, is it only happening because we think that's happening? And this raises a question. If a tree fell in a forest, would it make a sound? Because no one is there to observe it. No one is there to think if a tree falls, it makes a sound. And when particles are observed, they behave differently than when left unobserved. The very act of watching changes the outcome. This isn't just a weird quirk. It is a glimpse into the truth that consciousness, emotion, and intention can directly shape reality. It suggests that the observer is not separate from the observed. And this aligns deeply with spiritual teachings that say our thoughts and beliefs shape our world. In quantum physics, the observer effect isn't limited to just the double-slit experiment. Anytime a quantum system is measured, subatomic particles exist in a state of superstition, meaning they can be in multiple places or states at once until we observe them. What the observer expects to find can influence the outcome. Some experiments show that the setup of the experiment determined by human decision alters what the particles choose to do. This suggests that the particles aren't acting randomly, they're responding to how we choose to look at them. And quantum physics tells us something almost unbelievable, that before a measurement is made, particles don't have a definite position. They don't have a definite speed or even existence in the way we typically imagine. A particle isn't here or there, it's here and there and potentially anywhere in between. It's like all possibilities are alive simultaneously, waiting in the dark. And until we think with our minds, this can actually happen, it will just stay a possibility. But until we put all these things into order and think, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it's going to be, the particles will form in the exact way that we expect them to form. The particle chooses a location, a state, or reality because of us. This moment is known as wavefunction collapse, when the particle settles into a definite state because it has been observed. But if it wasn't observed, it wouldn't do that. And the power comes from us. But here's the mystery. What exactly causes this collapse? Is it the measuring device, the physical act of measurement, or is it something deeper, like consciousness itself? Some interpretations, like the Copenhagen interpretation, suggest it's the very act of observation that forces the particles to make a decision, to go from possibility into actuality. But what if it's not the machines observing, but us? Our presence, our awareness, our expectation of a result. That changes everything, because that means reality isn't some fixed stage where events play out regardless of our presence. It's more like a responsive canvas shaping itself around the attention we give it. It is not simply that we see the world as it is, but that the world becomes what we are ready to see. In this view, we aren't passive observers of reality. We are the active participants. We don't just wait. We don't just watch the show going on. We influence the script. We aren't just actors. We are the directors. And every thought, every expectation, and every moment of focused awareness might be part of the mechanism that brings the invisible into form. So when you expect failure, maybe that possibility becomes more likely. When you believe in a miracle, maybe you create a shift in possibility that brings it closer. Maybe what we look for isn't what we find. Maybe it's what we create. In that sense, wavefunction collapse isn't just a strange phenomenon of physics. It is a metaphor for life. Potential surrounds us. Infinite outcomes are always possible. Floating around us, there are millions of particles floating all around us, just waiting to take form. But if we just view it as just the air, the breeze going by us, nothing more meaningful, that is the quantum field all around us. And it's your belief and your intention and your consciousness that selects one reality out of all of them. In medicine, for example, one of the most undeniable pieces of evidence that belief can shape reality is the placebo effect. People given a sugar pill thinking it's real treatment often begin to physically heal. Their symptoms improve, their pain decreases, and sometimes even their body chemistry changes. Why is that? Because they believe that they are actually getting real treatment. Even if they are not, they still believe that they are, and suddenly their body believes it too. The expectation of healing initiated a real biological response. This means that the mind created the outcome, not the substance itself. The placebo effect proves that thoughts alone, expectation, belief, and faith can alter physical reality. And then, a lot of people might have not heard of this, but there's also the nocebo effect. And this is the darker side of the placebo effect, when belief in harm causes actual damage. If someone believes they're being exposed to something harmful, even if it is harmless, they may begin to experience side effects, pain, or illness. Again, the expectation creates the experience. It's not what's actually happening, it's what they believe is happening. So what is the truth? Is it objective or is it subjective, changing depending on who is looking, what they believe, and how they feel? The deeper you go, the more you begin to realize that maybe science doesn't disprove spirituality. Maybe it's starting to prove it, slowly, quietly, from the inside out. If belief alone can heal or harm the body, what else can it do? What other unseen forces are we activating every day with the simple act of thinking? Are we unknowingly sending signals to the quantum field with every emotion and every assumption? It is not such a leap to imagine that the same internal power that can cure a headache or create illness could also shape the events, relationships, and opportunities that flow into our lives. And if our inner world holds this much influence, what happens when we become conscious of it? When we stop moving through life on autopilot and begin to realize this is all going on right in front of us, but we haven't seen it before, but now we do. And then we begin directing our awareness intentionally Suddenly, manifestation becomes less of a mystical concept and more of a quantum phenomenon. The process of collapsing potential into form through conscious alignment with what we truly desire. It's not just about thinking positive anymore, but about tuning your frequency to match the life you want to live. Forget about what you have been told by everyone else. I mean, these belief systems are going to expire and there'll be new ones born in 100 years' time. Well, people believe different things. Why can't you start believing in something different, something new? And why don't you make it the normal? Why don't you inspire other people to adopt the same level of mind as you? And then begin to awaken more and more people. And this in itself, spiritually, brings us to the idea of coherence, a concept studied both in spiritual practice and neuroscience. When your thoughts, emotions, and physiology are in harmony, your entire system becomes more powerful, more magnetic. Studies of heart-brain coherence show that this state not only enhances your mental and emotional well-being, but may also amplify your influence on the quantum field. It's as though the universe recognizes your internal alignment and begins responding to that frequency, where you literally create things out of thin air. It's out of thin air because all these possibilities exist in the air right now. And they will stay possibilities until you realize everything that you need is right in front of you. Everything that you have ever wanted in this present eternal moment, it is right here. You don't have to wait weeks or months or years to get this because it exists right now. It's not something that takes a long time to come into existence. It is already in existence. And maybe that's also another key. Resonance. Just like a tuning fork vibrates in response to a matching frequency, reality may be responding to your most consistent vibrations. Not your fleeting thoughts, but your dominant patterns of belief, feeling, and expectation. This is why change doesn't come from surface level affirmation. It comes from deep embodiment. And this is what leads to transformation. From truly believing you're worthy, safe, connected, and capable, and from remembering that the observer, you, holds the brush to the canvas. There's nothing too little. There's nothing too big. You have it all right in front of you. And the moment that you turn your head and stop observing the world, a lot of different potentials are happening just right behind your back. And the second you turn around and maybe expect the worst in your life, oh, this happened yesterday, so of course it's going to happen today. This is the way that it's always been. This is the way that I've grew up with. This is what my parents told me. Until the moment that you turn around and face your reality, knowing that you are the one that's affecting it. Your observation, you being the observer, is what is creating this right in front of you. Whilst you're observing, you also have thoughts. Whilst you're observing, you also have beliefs. You're on your way to work and you think, this is the way that it's going to be. I hate being in this place. It's not truly for me, but I've passed this road so many times and I'm going to keep passing it. Of course you are, because that's what you expect every day. You expect your life to follow the same cycle. You're clinging on to just one representation of reality that's right in front of you. And until you can really tap into everything that is right here, the fact that you don't need to use one of your physical senses to really know everything that's going on, because that deep inner knowing comes from not just one of our human senses. It's beyond understanding of you as your human self and really tapping into something that's so much deeper. And I want you to leave this video today knowing that you're that step closer to really figuring everything out. And, you know, of course it's natural to sometimes forget the real authentic you, the life that you're meant to live. But it's moments like these that remind you to keep going, that remind you that you have been here once before. That means you can come back here again. It won't be as hard. Maybe doing something the first time, it can be difficult. But the more times it's done, the more proof that gives you that you can be here. Because sometimes you do lack that belief in yourself, but when you get that proof, it reassures you.